You spend about 2 hours of every night dreaming, over a lifetime that adds up to roughly 6 years spent inside a world that does not exist. And every human being who has ever lived did the same thing, which raises a question that sounds simple until you try to answer it. What did ancient humans dream about? The problem is obvious. Dreams leave no fossils. There is no archaeological layer of sleep, no sediment of imagination. And yet, we are not entirely in the dark, because dreaming turns out to leave 3 kinds of trace: what people wrote down, what the brain does regardless of century, and what happens when you compare cultures that never met. Start with the writing, because it goes back further than most people expect. The oldest recorded dream we have comes from Mesopotamia, close to 4,000 years old. In the Epic of Gilgamesh, the king dreams that a meteor falls from the sky and he cannot lift it. His mother interprets it: a companion is coming, someone as strong as he is. Not long after, Enkidu arrives. The dream is a message, and it is treated as reliable information about the future. That framing matters more than the content. Across the ancient Near East, dreams were not considered internal. They were considered received. A dream was something that happened to you from outside, in the same way weather happens to you. The Mesopotamians had a word for the dream god, Zakik, a spirit associated with wind and breath, who entered the sleeper's room and delivered the message. If a dream was disturbing, you did not examine your feelings about it. You performed a ritual to send it away. Egyptian dream practice was more systematic still. There are papyri from around 1300 BC that function as interpretation manuals, listing dreams in 2 columns, good and bad. If a man sees himself looking into a deep well, that is bad. It means prison. If he sees himself eating crocodile flesh, that is good. It means becoming an official. The logic is not psychological. It is closer to a legal code or a system of omens with fixed meanings. And Egyptians actively pursued dreams. They practiced incubation. You traveled to a temple, performed purification rites, slept on consecrated ground, and waited for the god to come to you with an answer, usually a medical one. This was functionally a healthcare system. The Greeks later ran the same practice on an industrial scale at the sanctuaries of Asclepius, where the sick slept in a hall called the abaton and reported their dreams to priests in the morning. Thousands of inscriptions survive describing the cures. So the first real answer to our question is this: ancient people dreamed about the same broad material we do, but they related to those dreams completely differently. The dream was not a window into the self. It was a channel to somewhere else. Now the harder question. Underneath the interpretation, what was the actual content? Here, neuroscience helps, because dreaming is not a cultural invention. It is a function of a brain that has not meaningfully changed in at least 50,000 years. During REM sleep, activity in the visual and emotional systems rises sharply, while the prefrontal cortex, the region that handles logic, self-monitoring, and the sense that something is impossible, goes quiet. That specific pattern produces the signature of dreams, vivid imagery, strong emotion, and no critical filter. A person in ancient Ur had the same architecture, so the raw grammar of their dreams was ours. What changes is the vocabulary. This is where dream research gets genuinely interesting, because modern studies have found something called the continuity hypothesis. In broad terms, dream content tracks waking life. People dream about what they handle, worry about, and encounter. Studies of dream reports find that the settings, the objects, and the social relationships map onto the dreamer's ordinary environment far more often than onto anything exotic. Follow that logic backward, and the picture sharpens considerably. A farmer in the Nile Valley did not dream about traffic, deadlines, or being unprepared for an exam. Those anxieties require those institutions. What he had instead were animals, water levels, the harvest, illness, the dead, the local authority, and the constant possibility of scarcity. Those are the raw materials. That is what the mind would have had to work with. And the emotional register would likely have been different too. Contemporary dream studies consistently find that negative emotions outnumber positive ones in dream reports, with fear and anxiety leading. The threat simulation theory proposes a reason. Dreaming may have evolved partly as a rehearsal system, a safe environment in which to run threat scenarios. If that is right, it predicts that dreams should be more threat-heavy in populations facing more real danger. And that prediction has held up in the places it has been tested, which suggests something worth pausing on. For most of human history, life involved predators, injury without medicine, and food supplies that could fail. If dreams rehearse threats, ancient dreams were probably considerably more frightening than ours, on average. Not because those people were more fearful, but because their nights were doing more work. There is a second consequence of the continuity hypothesis, and it concerns skill rather than fear. Modern studies of people learning demanding physical tasks find that the task shows up in their dreams, and that those who dream about it tend to perform better afterward. The sleeping brain appears to be running the movement again, without the body. Apply that to a world where survival was a set of physical skills: tracking, throwing, reading weather, recognizing which plants would kill you. If dreams rehearse what the day demanded, then ancient dreams were probably full of practice. The same hunt replayed, the same route walked, the same tool used again in the dark. Less a theater than a workshop. And there is a strange piece of evidence supporting this from an unexpected direction. Cave art from the Upper Paleolithic contains images that do not correspond to anything anyone has seen. Therianthropes, figures that are part human and part animal. The lion man carved from mammoth ivory in southern Germany, around 40,000 years old, is the oldest known example. Nobody has ever met a lion man. But anyone who has dreamed knows exactly how a body can be two things at once and feel completely unremarkable while it happens. That is not proof. It is not possible to interview a Paleolithic sculptor. But the fusion of forms, the confident depiction of something impossible, is one of the most recognizable features of dream imagery, and it appears in the very first art humans made. Some researchers have argued that the earliest religious imagery may be, at least in part, a record of what people saw with their eyes closed. Now the third source of evidence: cross-cultural comparison. Anthropologists have documented dream practices in societies with no contact with the ancient Near East, and the convergences are striking. In many hunter-gatherer and small-scale societies, dreams are shared publicly in the morning rather than kept private. Among some groups, a dream belongs to the community, not the dreamer, and discussing it is a normal part of starting the day. In others, dreams are understood as genuine travel. The soul leaves the body and goes somewhere real, which is why waking someone abruptly can be considered dangerous. The recurring theme across societies that never influenced each other is that the dead appear. Dreaming about deceased relatives is one of the most widely reported experiences in the ethnographic record, and it is almost always interpreted the same way, as contact rather than memory. It is difficult to overstate how much this shaped ancient religion. If your dead grandmother speaks to you in her own voice, and you have no framework describing the brain as generating that voice, the conclusion that she still exists somewhere is not superstition. It is the reasonable reading of the evidence available. Some scholars have argued that this experience is one of the deep roots of belief in an afterlife. Not doctrine, not philosophy, but the ordinary nightly fact that people who have died keep showing up and talking to you. There is one more thread, and it is the one that changed everything. Around the turn of the 20th century, dreams were relocated. Freud published The Interpretation of Dreams in 1900 and argued that dreams did not come from outside at all. They came from inside, from repressed material the sleeping mind disguised. Whatever you think of the specifics, and modern sleep science has moved a long way from them, the shift was enormous. 4,000 years of treating dreams as messages from elsewhere collapsed into treating them as messages from yourself. That is arguably the single largest change in the human relationship to dreaming. Not the content, the address on the envelope. And it may have changed the content too, at least a little. Dream researchers have documented that reported dream content shifts with culture and technology. Studies of people who grew up with black and white television found higher rates of monochrome dream reports. People dream about screens, phones, and vehicles now because those are what fill their days. Whatever fills the days gets recycled at night. So put it together. Ancient humans dreamed with the same brain we have, which means the same fragmented narratives, the same emotional intensity, the same absence of doubt while it is happening. They dreamed about their material world, animals, land, water, the people around them, danger. They dreamed about the dead frequently, and they had no reason to interpret that as anything other than contact. And they dreamed with far more consequence attached, because a dream could redirect a decision, prompt a ritual or be recorded as a warning. There is a detail in the Egyptian record that captures the whole difference. The word Egyptians used for dream, arstubbalti, is related to the verb meaning to wake or to be alert. The dream was not the opposite of being awake. It was another kind of seeing. We inherited the dreams. We lost the confidence that they meant something. Whether that trade was worth it is not really a question science can settle. But it is worth knowing that for almost all of human history, waking up and remembering a strange dream was not a curiosity to mention in passing. It was information. It might be why the temple was built, why the journey was canceled, why the child was named what it was named. 6 years of your life happen in there. For most of the people who came before you, those years were not considered wasted. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this one, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss what comes next.